I don't like a lot of streams live, but I like keeping tabs on the Twitch channels. Well, thank you. Fair. That's fair. Hope you get a piece or a half. I love watching the re-uploads. Cool. I'm always scared when cracking eggs because I might leave an eggshell piece into whatever I'm doing. Oh yeah, I totally understand that, ASD. I'm incredibly scared of this because of leaving eggshell pieces in, but I don't know where else. Like I guess I could take like a bowl and crack my egg into the bowl, clean it out, and then dump it into this bowl. But I don't know. I didn't think to do that until just now. So I'm being very, very careful with my egg cracks. Because you definitely don't, or at least I know I definitely don't want to crunch on an eggshell when I'm eating cake. Ugh. Let me go check on the dogs. Well, they're getting filthy. So that's fun. So the eggs are the binding agent essentially for this. The eggs are in a way kind of acting a bit like a gluten. In addition to the flour, they're adding to the binding of this. If you wanted to make this cake vegan free, the substitution I know of would be to take the eggs and substitute them with ground flaxseed and water. So if you want to make it a vegan free cake, that's how you could do this. I'm scared I'll ruin the yolk whenever I bake eggs. I'm way too careful with eggs. That's fair. I think I once had an eggshell piece in my cake. I bit it, it was very hard, and it scared me so much. Yeah, that's fair, ANC. I get it. And I know that with me, like, whenever I've bitten into an eggshell piece in something where I didn't, where they didn't expect it, because when do you expect that? I know that my brain just starts running through ideas of like, oh my god, I just ate a fingernail or a toenail or I just start running into all these terrible things. You can dry eggshell powders and oh yeah, you can dry eggshells powdered them out of the plant water. It's true. Eggshells are actually a fantastic element to fertilizer or compost. It's very true, Art. Eggs are an incredible, just an incredible food item because of that. I mean, they're full of protein. They're full of apparently good cholesterol. You can use them in baking. You can just cook them and eat them straight. You can eat them raw. The eggshells, you can totally do that. You can add them for fertilizer. They're wonderful in compost. That'll help the plants do what they do. It'll help them photosynthesize. It's true. It is very true. Next is vanilla. We need to add the vanilla to this mix now. Wow, yeah. Water, alcohol, 35%. Holy cow. Says so right on the jar. This is my alcohol jar. It is 8 ounces of 35% alcohol, apparently. So we're just gonna pour this in. Well, the spring thaw is certainly trying my patience. That's for sure. I just let Vash and Peggy, back in, but they were outside for quite some time, and they just came back in, and they're now filthy. They're now covered in mud, which I will have to deal with once the stream is over, because I obviously cannot deal with them right now. Mitochondria I like almost anything vanilla, just not vanilla ice cream and certain vanilla yogurts. Fair enough. Vash appears while Vash is eating a bagel in the left corner. What? Alright, I'm going to do another scrape with our handy dandy spatula. Now, if you remember I do hope you remember the texture that was on the spatula before, when I did that scraping before we added the eggs and the vanilla. Specifically, just so you can remember what it looks, so you can have a reference and see what it looks like now. Because this is what it looks like now. Now it is like this solid, creamy, smooth concoction. Benefit to being the baker, you get to taste all the things. And at least if you're doing a good job, then it's a benefit. If you are doing, if you're not doing a good job, then maybe it's more of a detractor. But for me, it's a benefit. All right. So I've already sifted my flour. Now it's time to mix in the rest of the dry ingredients for the cake, which includes our baking powder, our baking soda, which again, you don't need a 13-pound bag of baking soda, but like I said, baking soda is a cleaning agent as well, and adjusts and helps keep your pools, clean and healthy too. So if pH is less than, so yeah, it's alkaline then, I guess. Because it raises the pH. But since we use it as a cleaning thing. Cleaning implement? Why is my brain stuck on this? And salt. But yeah, my brain's like, don't clean things with the... Anyway, we're going to mix all the dry ingredients together now. And then we're going to add it to the wet ingredients that we have in the bowl. So I need 2 teaspoons of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 3/4 teaspoons of quote unquote a fine sea salt. Which I'm not going to be using fine sea salt, I'm just using table salt. Again, salt, as long as you're kind of still in like the same coarseness, you can kind of swap them out as you need. Like if you don't have fine sea salt, then you can just use a fan of table salt. It will be just fine to use. Do you see what I did there? I'm very funny. So there goes the salt. Now, there is a huge variety of salts, which is why I'm saying that like the coarseness is kind of what matters here. You could be using, if you wanted, you could use finely ground black salt. It would make a bit of a more sulfuric smell and taste to it, but you could use it. This is more, the coarseness of the salt is really what matters. The type, whether it's sea salt, iodized salt, kosher salt, black salt, Himalayan salt, whatever, isn't as important. So we're done with that measuring spoon. Now, again, I live high atop a mountaintop evil lair, which means that my leavening agent amounts can be adjusted. Black salt does exist. Let me see. Where do I have some in the pantry? I think I do somewhere here. There it is. Yep. There you go. Black salt. It looks blacker on camera than it really is. It's more of like a rock kind of thing. But yeah, black salt. Thinking about salt makes me think about an anime character. Sea salt is superior regardless. I mean, it's what you want for taste. I mean, it really just comes down to what you want for taste. All the salts are different in taste. Ha ha ha. Yes, I can hold. Yes, I'd like. Boop boop boop. Ha ha ha. Yes, I can hold. Yes, I'd like to place an order for delivery. Aku? I think I'm in the computer. Wait, hang on. Am I supposed to be Jack for this, or am I supposed to be Aku for this? I've never seen. They look. Yeah, those are very large chunks of salt. If we wanted, we could grind them down further. Oh, I'm supposed to be Aku for this. Okay. Yes, I can hold. Yes, I'd like to place an order for delivery. Aku. I think I'm in the computer. Yes, that's it. I'd like a large... What? Huh? Extra thick. 30 minutes or free. Excellent. Alright, so that means that... So there was a beep going off, which means that the bread is ready to go. Well, partially. We can let that keep going, though. That bread can rise as long as it wants, really. This particular recipe, the timing's loose enough for that. Again, I'm in a mountain lair, so I need to adjust my leavening agents. So, for example, baking soda, baking powder. We need... Oh, thank you, Lem. Wonderful. Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed that, Kano. I'm glad you enjoyed that, Kano, for it was fun to order pizza as Aku. So this calls for 2 teaspoons of the baking powder. So because I'm in a mountain lair, I don't need... ASC, thank you. I don't need 2 teaspoons. I can use just a little bit less. Otherwise, what's going to happen... Actually ordered a henchman. Oh, fair. Even better. If I use the same amount as requested by the recipe, I actually will end up with my cake, or actually any baking that I do that requires such a leavening agent as baking powder or baking soda. What will happen is the cake will actually rise too much and grow too much when it's baking that it won't be able to support its structure, and it will collapse, usually in the center. And so you'll have this dip in the center of your cake or your cookies or whatever you're using, whatever you're baking that requires these sorts of leavening agents. It's just another thing that I've learned about high altitude baking. Because again, living in an evil villain mountain lair, you gotta learn these things. So I actually don't need what the recipes call for, because all these recipes are designed to work at sea level. Air pressure is different, humidity is different, like I said, barometric pressure is different. All of this affects baking, because baking requires your food, your ingredients to rise. In that dip, you can put something like fresh clotted cream. Fresh clotted cream, the best cream. I'm gonna set that over there. We're almost to the point where we are actually going to start baking our cakes. We're almost to that point. Silmy, welcome back to the stream, noob, and thank you so much for the bits. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate that. Alright, I'm going to take a little fork and I'm going to mix this all up. That way they're, the flour, salt. We're not just pouring a, teaspoon of salt anywhere or a teaspoon of baking powder onto something. It's all going to be mixed in, because what we're going to do next is we're actually going to pour in a third of this mixture into our sugary, delicious mixture first. And then we're going to pour in half of our chocolate mixture. Or I should just say our chocolate syrup, as it kind of is. Chocolate soup? No, chocolate soup. And then we're going to pour in another third of this. And then we're going to pour in, and so on and so forth. That's how this is going to work now. So, let me rise this back up. Let's get this mixing just a little bit before I start pouring stuff in. Let's get that mixed up again. It's tasty and really unhealthy. Noob, I sometimes think about doing a sketch of you if you're okay with it. Absolutely, ASC. Sure. I do appreciate you asking ahead of time, though. But yes, absolutely. Nothing... No sketches of me in, exploitive poses, though, I suppose. Nothing that I'll see on Rule 34 later. Preferably. Not that I am assuming you would. I just know that that's a good disclaimer to put out there to the internet ahead of time. Alright, so here we go. We're going to pour in about a third of this mixture. Gosh darn it. I need to scoop this up. Sometimes I do wish I had a bigger bowl. Hey, welcome back, Snow. Current progress report is we are mixing up the cake batter. The bread has finished rising. And we're about to put the cake into the oven. So we've actually made a fair bit of progress. The internet sure is a wild place. It's true. Stop. Do you frequent Rule 34 often, or why would you see it later on there? The internet's a wild place, Kano. Alright, so I'm going to get my cake pans ready because we are almost to that point. So the recipe itself calls for... What's the better version? You like this version or you like this version? This version's probably the better one. Calls for... This recipe will make 2 9-inch cake pan layers. I don't have 2 9-inch cake pans. I have 1 9-inch cake pan and 1 8-inch cake pan. So, yes, Gene is there. Now, thankfully, an 8-inch cake pan is not so different from a 9-inch that we had to adjust the recipe. I could have adjusted about half of this recipe and reduced it by about 20-ish% to account for the fact that this is an 8-inch cake pan. Again, math, but I didn't want to bother doing math. So we're just going to pour everything in these. Nice. Important question. Did you see the Steel Soul Gene enemy in the Silk Song trailer? I did, Snow. I absolutely did. I spotted them on first viewing of the trailer. I went, holy cow, that is a Steel Soul Gene lookalike. Oh my god, yes. Please give me more. I need to know. I want us to soup now. Well, there is one, yeah. I must rewatch the trailer and pay more attention. Is it smaller? No, actually, they're kind of... This particular enemy was kind of wider. Like, they took Gene and they just went, whack. And Gene kind of went like this. But it looked like Gene for sure. Alright, so now that has been mixed in very well. Let's pour in about half of this. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, that's bitter. Oh, I knew it was going to be bitter, but oh, that's bitter. Oh, dang, I should probably watch the trailer again. Now that I'm more awake, I missed so many things. It's true, there's a ton in there, which is why I'm kind of excited to try to put together a reaction/analysis video on it. That description of the Gene enemy made me laugh out very loud. My family was worried. Oh, good. Maybe I'll try to keep that for the analysis video too. It's just Gene, but something went. Alright, so you can see this now that this is actually becoming much more fluid, much more liquidy. Let's add in another third of the flour, our dry ingredients mixture. Now I'll admit that I'm doing this in this pattern of dry, wet, dry, wet, dry, because that's what the recipe calls for. You can do amazing things baking if you just follow the recipe like word for word. Like that's one of the things about baking that's different from cooking is if there's an established recipe, you follow that to the letter and you should end up with exactly the same results. Provided you account for whether or not you live in a mountaintop layer or you live under the sea or something like that. I'll get that later. And now it's time for the rest of our chocolate mixture, of our chocolate estes soup. Alright, so there's a little bit of sludge left in here, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this spoon, kind of mash that up, try to get the sludginess out. Some of that sludginess will also be worked out through the mixer, but I'm going to try to do that now, and then I'm also going to scrape this out as best as possible to make sure that all of this, because I want this to be as chocolatey as possible, of course. So I'm going to do this to make it as chocolatey as possible. Now we're just going to pour the rest of that in there. Yeah, get that chocolatey goodness in there. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. My therapist yesterday told me that she is no longer allowed to have chocolate. And I said to her, well, that's a very interesting statement. And that's a very interesting choice of words. What do you mean? What do you mean no longer allowed to? And they explained that they have been diagnosed with permanent acid reflux. So by doctor's orders, they are not allowed to have chocolate anymore. And I said, that sucks. Two, if I was given such a diagnosis, you'd be pulling a chocolate bar out of my cold, dead mouth. Because I would not give up chocolate. Even then, even if doctor's like, you will die if you eat this. Like, well, nom nom nom. I love chocolate too much. Well, I told you, I had a bunch of questions for you. So I'm just going to start the interrogation, okay? Alright, let's do this. I saw the Hollow Knight community members like to create their own vessel OCs. Do you have one? I do, Snow of all trades. You can actually visit them. You can actually visit him in the Spirit Glade. Perhaps you've met me. I am Perpetuos New. It seemed cooler to do it that way in my head. Try adding a little powdered coffee in a chocolatey stuff. It'll bring out the flavor even more and won't be coffee-like. Or you did, cause I'm not paying attention. I have not done that art, but that is a great point. Is that you can adjust this a little bit and add in more. You could add coffee. Now, if I was going to add in like some powdered coffee, I would have needed to subtract a little bit of the powdered cocoa to ensure that my ratio stayed the same. But you absolutely are correct that you can do that, and it works. There is another recipe I've done before. Oh, I'm not done adding in the dry ingredients. Whoops. There is another recipe that I've done in the past. Okay, there's the rest of that, and it was a Yule log recipe, and that recipe called for a little bit of coffee grounds mixed in with the chocolate, and it worked beautifully. It came out beautiful. It was delicious. So you are absolutely correct, Art. You can do that. Using the custom vessel mod, if I created you a custom vessel or just a custom colored cloak, would you use it? Sure. Why not? I don't know. I probably wouldn't use. Oh wait, I mean it'll be in Hollow Knight, so yeah, why not? Could easily at least do that on one of my saves that's not currently being used for recording footage. You will die! Can I have chips? Yeah, right? Alright, don't forget about Perpetuous New. But he is not a vessel, is he? Oh yeah, that's true. That is true. He is not a vessel, he is a dragonfly. So he is a Hollow Knight OC. That's right, yeah. But he's not a vessel OC. That's a fantastic point, Snow. You'd think I'd remember this. I've seen Hollow Knight OCs and they look so neat. I agreed, ASC. I've enjoyed a lot of that. Did I design Perpetuous New? I did. I didn't do the drawing of Perpetuous New, but I did provide because drawing is not my forte. Writing tends to be. So I wrote a description for Perpetuous New. And then Team Cherry provided a visual representation of that, and that's what you see in the game. They knew I would have known if I knew whose purpose. I think I would have known. Alright, so after all that crazy, like, back and forth of dry ingredients to wet ingredients, to dry ingredients to wet ingredients, we finally have almost a final version of our cake batter. I'm going to use our handy dandy red spatula once again to help us get this final mixing done. We got to get a little Kingdom Hearts here and have a final mix. Essentially because you can see there's a fair bit of flour that came from like the edges of the bowl or the paddle that have not been mixed in yet, and we need that to happen. I want to make sure as much of this gets mixed together as possible. I also don't want to leave this, this flour just chilling. But you do gain this lovely, muddy, disgusting paddle, of which I'm going to eat right now because this is going to be delicious. Oh, it was about to fall. I had to stop it. I had to keep the floor safe. Oh, this is so good. Y'all just keep talking amongst yourselves. I'm gonna just do this for a bit. Oh man, it's so good. So good. Absolutely worth it. Like all the time and effort this takes, it's worth it just for that. Just for that little bit. But yeah, so if you made like a vessel OC of me, that'd be really cool. Did I have to pay or something? Technically, yes. Yes, I did, ASC. Back when Hollow Knight... God, there's so much of this. I mean, look at all this. Look at this. There's just so much. Back when Hollow Knight was still in the funding phase, when they were still only on Kickstarter, yes, I backed the game at the Ghost tier, essentially, as it was. So yes, technically I did have to pay to get Perpetuous New. And this was back before when I was making way more money than I probably should have been. I was working at a defense contractor as a systems engineer. And so I had the money to spare. And I definitely gave what I wanted to, and when they were like, yeah, you can be in this game and you can exist as like a ghost, I was like, oh my gosh, this will be amazing. I would love that, because I loved Hollow Knight's art style. I loved that they were kind of selling it as like, this is going to be a difficult game, it's going to be, a ton of exploration, there's going to be a lot to do, and just, and again, here's the art style and here's the music, and I was like, yeah, I'm sold on this game really hard. So yeah, I did. I backed it at that tier, and that's why I was able to do that. Okay, so now you can kind of see that we've got this just like very thick batter. And so next step here is we got to get these into our cake tins. So this was a method I tried for the first time yesterday. that I had never done before. Usually, when I've been making cakes now, I was instructed, the instructions were to grease and line the cake tins, which I have since learned apparently is like a British thing. Because watching Nailed It, they talk about greasing and flouring, and so does this book. This book talks about greasing and flouring the cake tin. And what does that mean? Well, when you grease and line the cake tin, you take your butter or oil. Though I have found now that butter is just it's nicer. It just works better for me. I tried oil yesterday with one thing, and it was like, wow, this is just dumb. Why am I not using butter? But if you don't have butter, or you don't have enough butter, or you've got just some simple oil like a canola oil or something, you can use that. But you grease the tin, and with the grease and line method, I would now be using parchment paper and putting that all over this tin, cutting out a circle, putting that down, having to do math, cutting out diagonals along a rectangle so I can line the edge. It's a giant pain in the butt. The grease and flour method kind of sounds exactly like what it is. You grease the tin, and then you flour the tin. Now in this case, I'll be using. You use a very small amount of flour. You don't need to use a lot. Which, before I do this, I'm actually going to grease this tin because of just for efficiency's sake. Gonna shred these paper towels because you don't need a whole paper towel to do this. And I've still got to grease one more thing before we're done. So I'm gonna grease this tin. Got to get flour everywhere. This is all in preparation so that when you are done and you want to take the cake, take the bread, whatever, take the baked good out, it comes out nice and easily. Otherwise, it's gonna be a big pain in the butt, and you're gonna have to use a knife, and it's not good. You want to grease this. Let's see. Well, our clueless game artist, if he's alive for once. My willful, how will that be delivered to Roy? Well, what colored cloak would you like to have? Please be specific. I like to be accurate. As long as we understand each other. Noob eats the whole thing off screen. He will love E39F4E. Looks like infection orange. Thick batter. Hey, batter, batter, batter. Hey, hey, batter, batter, batter. Hey, swing batter. No batter, no batter, no batter, no batter. Swing batter. No. I mean, I would prefer something probably on the scale of red. That sort of thing. You can use brushes to do this. I don't really have brushes for it, so I just use paper towels. Now comes the flouring part. So I'm gonna take this is like a 3/4 teaspoon. Just kind of dump it in there, and then you just shake it all around. You gotta get it to the edges as well. Kind of drive it like a crazy steering wheel, like you're just doing circles. Well, there are several reds that I do enjoy. I would say for Hollow Knight, I would go closer to crimson. I think crimson would be the better. I'm going to set this underneath so that as flour escapes one tin, it will go into the next one because I'm going to have to flour the other tin as well. So why not? And you want to keep tapping at this because you don't want the flour to clump. You don't want there to be clumps of flour in your tin because that will actually affect the cake itself. Art, clearly red is best of all colors, obviously. Have you seen my hair? If you need a specific, you can capture the red on my icon on the screen. I don't know if your photoshopping program would let you do that, but that's how I'll steal a lot of colors, is I'll look at a screen and be like, oh, go into GIMP and be like, gimme. Give me that. See, now that's more like it. I can do a crimson red. Guess I'll use one that matches with the bluish tones of the Crossroads and Infection Orange. There we go. Yeah, because the red that is in a lot of my like icons is I think it might be a little too bright and kind of just look out of place in the world of Hollow Knight. Like it would just be too bright, and I don't want to look like Nightmare King Grim. That poor vampire moth used a bit too much red. Oh, gotta take a right turn. Nope, we've clearly now gone to motocross. We're no longer NASCAR where we're just making left turns. Which I have had the opportunity to drive a NASCAR car before, and wow, it is intense. Like, I mean, the joke is you're just making left turns, but oh man, no. I mean, yes, the only turn you do make is left, but those straightaways and dodging other cars, woohoo! Ho-ho! That's nuts! Alright, just want to make sure this is covered as best as possible because you don't want your cake to stick. You don't want your cake, your bread, anything to stick. Alright. See, now that's what I could just steal your hair color. Yeah, I'll see how well it fits with the game color scheme. Cool! Greetings, Pascal! Woo! Just watched the Silksong trailer and I love it. Very cool. Yeah, welcome to the stream, Pascal. Good to see you again. You can do RGB or BP black. No, someone's already made a Grimkin custom skin. Oh, fair enough. Vampire moth? Yeah. But there is an infected moth, infected with vampire juice. I know I love the new friends in Silksong. Yeah, I liked a lot of the new NPCs that they show. It's time to pour some thick batter. Here we go. Oh, this is beautiful. Oh, got a little bit of a... I don't know how that happened. We got a little bit of a flour chunk. Let's just kind of swirl that in real quick. Thankfully, that wasn't a ton of flour, so we can just do that. Let's get this tin over here. We want to try to keep this as even as possible with pouring and putting batter in each. So the 8-inch cake should be a little bit taller by the end of it, you know, because obviously it's only an 8-inch diameter tin versus a 9-inch diameter tin. I want to try to keep things as even as possible so things will cook as evenly as possible and everything can come out at the same time. What I found yesterday in my test run is that the 8-inch batter still needed to go longer than the 9-inch, which means I probably put too much into the 8-inch tin versus the 9-inch tin. Because again, the 8-inch tin, you know, if you go with I guess, you know, if you go with an equal amount, it will technically be taller and be thicker. So what I'm probably going to do this time around is I'm actually going to keep the 8-inch tin towards the back of the oven because that's where it actually will stay warmer and for longer and better. It, you know, closer to the door you get, the colder it gets. But now I've just got this bowl full of leftover chocolate cake batter. Oh, that's good.